Hi there and welcome to episode 13 of my internet sensation review show, What Am I Listening To and Why? It's quite simple. I take the last 6 records that I've had on my turntable, I put them back on again and I give you 2 minutes of what I think about them. That's as simple as it gets. Let's start off right away with something pretty massive. Let's see you do just 2 minutes on this beat. This is Pink Floyd Animals, but it's the 2018 remix. This record was originally made in 1977 by the original Pink Floyd, and this is the point. I don't know how much you know about Pink Floyd lore. I'll presume you know a bit. This is the bit where kind of Roger Waters took the reins and everything got a bit nasty. And I don't just mean between Dave Gilmour and the rest of the band. I mean the records got a bit nasty as well. And this is where it got very political and very strong. And everything on here is very strong. The lyrics are strong and the songs are really, really strong. Roger Waters is still doing tracks from this today. This is a far cry from the Pink Floyd that you have today, that rather sad tribute band that Dave Gilmour takes out. I mean, they do original songs, but his lovely wife Polly writes the lyrics. That's ridiculous! Anyway, back to this. I love both versions of this. This remix was remixed by James Guthrie, who turns out mixed loads of their stuff in the past, and it's not really fresh ears on the project, so as a consequence, it's not that different. The drums are a bit punchier, maybe there's a bit more separation, but one thing that is utterly garbage about it is the pressing is not very good. I bought this record brand new and it's full of pops and clicks and ticks, and that just should not be the case, but it is. It's beautifully packaged. So you've got the whole slightly different cover. There's no pig, and there is. It's beautifully packaged. It's got all the original photos in here. It comes with the book with all about everything to do with this album. It's as close as Pink Floyd ever got to punk, and it's one of my favourite Floyd albums. It sets the scene for The Wall, really. That's what it does, if that interests you. I would give it Pink Floyd Animals. Actually, you know what, I'm not going to differentiate between the remix and the original. I'd give it, it's an 8, if you like. Pink Floyd. Record number 2 is by a band that, I don't know where. This is Half Man, Half Biscuit, and their first LP back in the DHSS, which came out in 1985. I can remember in the mid-80s when every gig you went to, you would see posters for this band everywhere. And I never really sort of started listening to them till the kind of early 2000s. And when we used to do a thing called Old Jock Radio, and we would play tracks, at least one track a week by Half Man, Half Biscuit, because they were hilarious. They were really, really funny. The tracks were very whimsical, and so when I saw this album in the shop, and I went, oh, like last year, I couldn't wait to buy it. Paid only a few quid for it, rushed home, put it on, and then found it was, It's not what I wanted it to be. Like, I think maybe I've got rose-tinted glasses from listening to one track at a time. I know they're a huge favourite of John Peel, and I think he gave them like 400,000 Peel sessions. But this album, it doesn't sound very good. Sonically, it's a bit grating. And although there's a lot of funny things on the album and humorous titles, and the songs are very humorous, in a sense that's its downfall, because how often do you want to listen to funny albums? Apart from Frank Zappa, it's not a lot really. The kind of things being incredibly humorous can tend to be instantly great, but it takes away from the longevity of wanting to listen to it time and time again. And having listened to this thing 3 times in the last 3 days, that's absolutely true. Each time I've listened to it, I started off going, oh yeah. This is listen 4 now, and I'm like, fuck. Yeah. it's kind of horrible. And the musicianship and the kind of music, it's very amateurish. It's very amateurish, and every time I hear it, I want to hear it less than I've heard it. It's sonically horrible, amateurishly played, very funny for a bit, but that is really, really starting to wear on me now. So yeah, half man, half biscuit, back in the DHSS. I wish it was better than it is. It's a shaky 5. Record number 3 is Toots and the Maytals 2020 album, Gotta Be Tough. Well, I bought this having not heard it. I'm a huge reggae fan. I thought, it's Toots and the Maytals, it's 2020, it's called Gotta Be Tough, it's gotta be good. I was horribly disappointed when I put it on, because the one thing that it wasn't really was a reggae album, which is what I hoped it would be. It's a kind of a mishmash of styles. It's got a very big production. There's been a lot of money spent on this. There's been a lot of hands on the bloody tiller for this thing. But it's got a lot of brass and like big soul-y numbers and stuff. It's not what I want at all. Sonically, as I say, it's a big production, but it's not very great. It's produced by Zach Starkey, Ringo's son, who, get this, now owns Trojan Records. Zach Starkey owns Trojan Records. I'll say that in a higher voice. Zach Starkey now owns Trojan Records. How did that happen? I don't know. Zach Starkey, youth. You know, it's all in there, but it's one of these things. It's not turned out that great. Where it fails is when it tries to be different. Where it succeeds is on the sort of free reggae tracks that are on here. They're really, really good. Gotta Be Tough. Oh god, there's a version of Three Little Birds, the Bob Marley, sung by Ziggy Marley. But it's done in a much tougher, harder, more confrontational style. At first I really didn't like it, but it might actually just be the best track on here. I've owned this album for a couple of years, and I've played it about 4 times, and I listened to it again to do this review, hoping against hope that somehow it would be better. But I would not recommend this. If you're looking for a good reggae album, this is not it. This was Freddie, what's his name? Freddie Hibbert? Freddie Toots Hibbert. This was his last LP. He died of COVID. He died of COVID! He died of COVID in 2020, shortly after finishing this. And this is a shame that he went out on this, really, because I don't think it's that great. Even although this record won a Grammy for Best Reggae Album. So that shows you what the people who give away Grammys know about reggae records. And I think the answer to that would be, fuck all. It's a 5. Record number 4 is the Sex Pistols, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. Contentious one. Now, this is not Nevermind the Bollocks by any way, shape or form. This is a fantasy version of the Sex Pistols. This is how Malcolm McLaren imagines the Sex Pistols, so you can know how much rubbish this really is, and it is terribly, terribly rubbish. I'm going to say some good things about it. First of all, this artwork is terrific. I love it, and I'm genuinely saying I love the look of this thing. I love everything about it. I love the trashiness of it, and I love the graphic of it. I think that's fantastic. Unfortunately, that does not translate to what's on the record, which is, as I said, is a sort of fantasy version of the Sex Pistols as imagined by Malcolm McLaren. The talent had left the building. Matlock was gone, Lydon was gone, and you're left with Steve Jones, who I love, and I say is incredibly talented, and Paul Cook, but they're not up to the task of creating a follow-up to Nevermind the Bollocks. No way, no how, Sparky, that ain't gonna happen. So you've got this, the movie that McLaren wants to make. He sank every penny of the Sex Pistols money into it, and it was garbage. From the opening credits to the finishing titles, it's garbage. But that's not to say there aren't some quite nice things in here. At the time it was garbage, but I can look back on it now and I can find some nice things in here. I'm just going to tell you what they are. I think the Sid Vicious rock and roll covers are kind of sweet. There's a jam session which is worth hearing. I don't know if it's worth being on the. It's got John Lydon on it. It's the only thing that does. The Black Arabs, which is disco version of Sex Pistols songs, actually done by Dennis Bovell. So I believe that's really good. Silly Thing is a good track. Lonely Boy is a good track. The Great Rock and Roll Swindle is not a good track. The only original sort of number, Sex Pistols number, is Belston Was a Gas, sung by Lydon. It's kind of icky. But this, like I say, this, if you can take it for what it is kind of enjoyable, and there are parts of it that are real fun. I think Ten Po Tudor doing Who Killed Bambi? Who Killed Bambi? Who Killed Bambi is a brilliant piece of art. Sid Vicious doing My Way again is a good piece of art. But you know, never mind the bollocks, it ain't, and it'll forever be floating in a tub of shit, and that is kind of what it deserves. But also, I kind of like it, but I'm not going to mark it well, just because of what it is and what it should be. This is it's a 4 with nice bits. Record number 5 takes us to the Undertones and their final album, which is very, very rarely talked about. This is called The Sin of Pride, and this was the fag end of the career. After this, there was no more, apart from a sort of dodgy new version of the Undertones. But yeah, at this point, I think relationships were kind of fractious between Fergal and everybody else. It was a Fergal and everybody else situation. Now, I didn't like this album when it came out. I played it and I thought, ugh. And listening to it now, I can see why I thought that, but my heart has definitely softened on it. They've gone down a kind of... They've gone down quite a soul direction, and it's got some soul, you know, soul backing vocals and very soulish songs on it. But the production is a real problem. Whoever produced this, and I didn't look it up, kind of got it wrong. The snare drum is far too loud. It's got an ugly snare sound, and an ugly loud snare sound can really wreck a record, and it did wreck this. If someone could nip in, like they did with Pink Floyd, and remix this thing, I think it could be so much better. They knew it was all over when they were making this. They couldn't wait to just get away from each other. And I doubt, of all the Undertones records, now the band are still going, I bet you they play no tracks from this at the gigs they do now. This is a million miles away from Teenage Kicks. I do not know what John Peel thought of this. But as I say, hearing it now, I think 50% of it is really, really strong, and it's the production and that clunky snare that just overrides everything. I don't know if there was any hit singles on this. I suspect there was, and I suspect the days of hit singles had gone by. The only time I've seen Fergal recently is on that fishing show, and he keeps insisting on singing in bars and stuff and doing My Perfect Cousin. It's all a little bit cringy, but he's keeping the rivers clean and he's a good man for it. Much better than I thought it was back then, but not nearly as good as it should be. It's another 5. Jesus! Record number 6. Let's end on a high today. Everything's been 5, so let's see if we can do better with this. This is The Jam, Setting Suns, which is their 4th LP, and to my mind, I think it's their strongest piece of work. I didn't like the first Jam LP very much, just sounded a bit like a Who copy. And the second album was kind of short on really strong songs. All Mod Cons, great, it all started to happen there. But for me, this is where it really kicks in. Now, this was supposed to be a kind of concept album, I think Paul Weller was going to try and do, but I think that idea went by the wayside. People often start concept albums and they get 3 songs in and go, fuck it, just record songs now. And I think exactly the same thing happened here. I think Thick as Thieves, I can't remember what tracks were meant to be on the concept album, but yes, it's got great art. And the production's fantastic. It's nice and fat. I don't think the Jam ever sounded better than this. From this, they went on to Sound Effects, which is a great album too, but it's a bit more arty and it's very sparse and clunky. Whereas this is a really good it's a good pop record, and it's full of excellent, memorable songs. As I say, I don't think they ever got any better than this. And I always remember seeing them on Tea Time Telly with Joy Division. Joy Division did Transmission, and the Jam did Eton Rifles, which was a single from this. And they were both fucking superb. I can't remember the name of the program. It's on YouTube. Jam, Eton Rifles, Joy Division, Transmission. That's the sort of thing we used to have on Tea Time Television. What have you got now? Rubbish! We used to have good things on Tea Time Television, and that proves it. The Jam, Setting Suns, easily their best effort, and I'm going to take us away from the 5, and I'm going to bang this right up to an 8. Oh, that was a good... Did you see how that ended? Anyway, thank you very much for watching episode 13 of What Am I Listening To and Why. As usual, bounce it up to 1,000 sort your eyes out! Bounce it up to 1,000 watches and you'll get some bonus content. If you don't, you won't. So if you liked it, if you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell. If you're watching on Facebook, share. Share. See you next time. End of... I'm just going to leave that in.